The important people of the province were having dinner in a decorated pavilion. The mayor sat at one end of the table, and Ibarra at the other. Maria Clara was to Ibarra's right, and the clerk to his left. The meal was lively and cheerful. Ibarra, despite his pleasant demeanor, felt a twinge of unease. He had returned to his hometown after years abroad to honor his late father's memory and continue his legacy of progress. But already he had encountered resistance from some quarters, particularly the friars who wielded significant influence in the town. Halfway through dinner, a messenger brought Captain Tiago a telegram. After reading it, he excitedly announced, "Gentlemen, His Excellency the Governor-General is coming to stay at my house this evening." This news caused a stir among the guests. Exclamations of surprise and questions filled the air. "When is he coming? Tell us more." "His Excellency." The priests exchanged glances, thinking the Governor-General was slighting them by not staying at the convent. Father Sibilla leaned over to Father Salvi and whispered, "It seems the Captain General is playing another of his tricks. He should be staying with us." The mayor said, "I had heard about the visit yesterday, but it wasn't confirmed yet." The police chief asked anxiously, "Do you know how long the Governor-General plans to stay?" "With certainty, no," replied the mayor. "His Excellency likes to give surprises." More messages arrived for the mayor, police chief, and town captain with the same announcement. The priests noticed none came for the parish priest, further fueling their discontent. The mayor announced, "Gentlemen, the Governor-General will arrive at 4 p.m. so we can finish our meal in peace." The conversation resumed. Someone remarked, "I note the absence of our great preacher from this morning." Those who knew about Ibarra's father exchanged knowing looks. Ibarra's father had died in prison, unjustly accused of being a heretic and subversive. The preacher that morning had made veiled references to this, causing Ibarra distress. Someone charitably said, "He must be tired." "Tired? He must be exhausted after that sermon," exclaimed the police chief. Others praised the sermon as splendid, magnificent, and profound. Father Salvi added, "And his abundance of expression." To change the subject, the mayor commented, "Señor Ibarra, I hear you have the best cook in the province." An employee noted, "But his beautiful neighbor doesn't seem to be enjoying it much. She's barely eating." Maria Clara blushed and said softly, "I thank the gentleman for his concern, but you honor the table merely by your presence," the mayor gallantly interjected. He then turned to Father Salvi and asked, "Father, why have you been so quiet all day?" Father Sibilla remarked dryly, "The mayor is very observant." Father Salvi stammered, "It's a habit of mine. I prefer listening to talking." The police chief joked, "Father Salvi always makes sure to win and not lose." Father Salvi's eyes lit up as he retorted, "The police chief knows very well who is winning and losing these days." This was a reference to their ongoing rivalry over influence in the town. The police chief laughed it off, but there was tension in the air. The mayor intervened, saying, "Gentlemen, it's not appropriate to talk of winning and losing in front of these charming young ladies. They are like celestial harps, their presence elevating our souls." The clerk exclaimed, "Your honor is becoming poetic." "I can't help it," said the mayor. "Opportunity doesn't always make the thief, but it makes the poet. I wrote quite good poetry in my youth." The conversation turned to the mayor's career ambitions. He spoke of retiring to Spain someday, saying, "A villa in the north for summer, a mansion in Madrid, and some property in Andalusia for winter. There we shall live, remembering our beloved Philippines." Some employees and priests laughed at what they thought was a joke, not realizing the mayor had quoted Voltaire in French. Father Sibilla became serious, thinking the mayor had said something heretical. Meanwhile, the children were eating at another table under their teacher's supervision. They were rather noisy for Filipino children, who usually ate quietly around adults. Their parents watched proudly. A woman told an old man, "Despite my husband's objections, my Andoy will be a priest. We may be poor, but we'll work hard for it." The old man replied, "If Andoy becomes pope, we'll go to Rome. I can still walk well, and if I die, he. They fantasized about Andoy becoming a great religious leader. "He'll remember us when he's Pope," the old man chuckled. "He'll say masses for my soul." Another man joined in, saying, "My son will be a doctor." "There's nothing like being a doctor." The woman argued, "What are you talking about? There's nothing like being a priest." They debated the merits of each profession, with the woman insisting that priests had an easier and more profitable life. "The priest eats God and makes money," she said. "Everyone, even the women, tell him their secrets." Just then, Father Damaso approached with a malicious half-smile. Everyone greeted him with surprise and pleasure except Ibarra, who tensed visibly. Father Damaso's smile became strained when he saw Maria Clara seated next to Ibarra. The mayor explained, "We were just discussing Senor Ibarra's school project and the architect." Father Damaso interrupted, "I don't know anything about architecture, but I laugh at architects and the fools who employ them. I designed the local church myself with no training." The mayor tried to defend the need for experts, but Father Damaso sneered, "Get out with your experts. Only a fool needs experts." He boasted about how a fellow friar had built a cheap hospital by exploiting workers. "He made them work hard and paid only 8 quartos a day," he said proudly. Father Damaso then launched into a rant about the corruption brought by the Suez Canal and criticized Indians who studied in Europe. Just as soon as they get a little learning, they set themselves up as doctors. Ibarra had been listening silently, growing pale with anger. When Father Damaso alluded to Ibarra's father, saying, "Even in this life, the fathers of such vipers receive their punishment. They die in jail, ha ha!" Ibarra suddenly leapt up and struck the priest, knocking him down. Everyone froze in shock as Ibarra held a knife to Father Damaso's throat. "Stand back!" Ibarra cried in a terrible voice. "Let anyone who values his life stay away." Ibarra was shaking with rage, his eyes wild. Even the police chief didn't dare approach. Father Damaso struggled to get up, but Ibarra shoved him back down. "I tried to avoid this, but God has brought me to it. Let God be the judge," Ibarra declared. He looked around at the stunned crowd. "Is there anyone here who has not loved his father, or who hates his memory because of shame and humiliation? You see, you understand this silence?" He berated Father Damaso for his hypocrisy and cruelty. "My father was an honorable man. Ask these people who respected him. He was a good citizen who sacrificed himself for me and for his country. His home was open to strangers and outcasts. He welcomed this man as a friend. And how did this man repay him? He slandered him, persecuted him, turned people against him. He dishonored his memory even after death. And now he persecutes the son." Ibarra's voice broke with emotion as he continued, "I have fled from him. I have avoided his presence. You this morning heard him profane the pulpit, pointing me out to popular fanaticism, and I held my peace. Now he comes here to seek a quarrel with me. To your surprise, I have suffered in silence, but he again insults the most sacred memory that there is for a son." He turned to the assembled guests, his voice rising. "You who are here, priests and judges, have you seen your aged father wear himself out working for you, separating himself from you for your welfare? Have you seen him die of sorrow in a prison, sighing for your embrace, seeking someone to comfort him, alone, sick when you were in a foreign land? Have you afterwards heard his name dishonored? Have you found his tomb empty when you went to pray beside it? No? You are silent, so you condemn him." He raised the knife, but suddenly Maria Clara threw herself between them, grabbing Ibarra's arm. "Crisostomo!" she cried out, her eyes pleading with him. He stared at her with a crazed look, recognition slowly dawning in his eyes. Slowly his fingers relaxed, dropping the knife and releasing Father Damaso. The priest scrambled away, gasping for breath. Ibarra looked around at the shocked faces of the guests, the fear in their eyes. He saw the pain and concern in Maria Clara's face. The magnitude of what he had almost done hit him like a physical blow. Covering his face with his hands, Ibarra fled through the crowd. The guests parted to let him pass, still too stunned to speak or move. Maria Clara collapsed into a chair, sobbing quietly. As Ibarra disappeared into the night, the spell of silence was broken. The pavilion erupted into a cacophony of voices, some expressing outrage, others concern, and still others trying to make sense of what had just transpired. The dinner party had come to an abrupt and shocking end, leaving all present to wonder what consequences would follow this dramatic confrontation.